Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Doomsday Clock number 9. Revelations abound in this issue. There are more revelations in this issue than in the 8 previous issues combined. Last issue ended with Firestorm essentially seeming to explode in Moscow. And the world reacts in fear because, oh my god, the Superman theory appears to be correct. Or at least that was the conspiracy theory that's been with us from issue 1. This idea that all the metahumans on the planet are part of some secret US government plan to basically create metahumans to secretly, perhaps ultimately control the Earth, control the destiny of the planet. It's a crazy conspiracy theory, right? Well, except for the fact that... Okay guys, I gotta warn you, spoilers are coming up here. So if you don't want any spoilers, you gotta stop watching the video because there's spoilers. There's no way I can review this comic book without spoilers, so spoiler alert. So ready? You got time to shut it off because here the spoilers come. Are you ready? Here it comes. Major revelation number 1. The Superman theory is real. The US government did indeed have a secret plan to create metahumans. And second big revelation, Professor Stein was part of the conspiracy. Professor Stein deliberately created the explosion that merged him with Ronnie Raymond. That is a major revelation that Dr. Manhattan in this issue reveals to Ronnie Raymond. Now, how does all this come about? Well, the fact of the matter is that spinning out of the events of last issue, the explosion in Moscow basically creates a bunch of chaos. Superman is rendered unconscious and he's recovering. He's in a coma in the Hall of Justice. Batman is injured. He's rendered unconscious. He ends up ultimately healing in the Batcave, being looked after by Alfred. And meanwhile, all the Justice League superheroes and all the other heroes, a whole slew of heroes, the Doom Patrol, the Titans, every hero you can think of, from Doom Patrol, Titans, Justice League, to, oh good lord, I mean there's literally pages. The art here is absolutely gorgeous. There's pages and pages of superheroes showing how all of them are rushing to the planet Mars. Why are they going to Mars? How do they know to go to Mars? Because they have discovered that the energy signature of the explosion that occurred in Moscow, they've discovered that same energy signature on Mars. And of course that energy signature is Dr. Manhattan. Now, interestingly enough, as they take off for Mars, they're pretty much 3/4 of the way to Mars. Batman finally recovers, Bruce Wayne recovers, and he says, where'd everybody go? And Alfred tells him they're off to Mars to confront this Dr. Manhattan. But Batman says, he goes, you know what, basically he says, I don't think Dr. Manhattan did this. I think this is all misdirection. I'm not sure if who they're going to be confronting, i.e. Dr. Manhattan, is actually the person that's behind the explosion. And he doesn't say who it is, but he says maybe they're being played, they're not really sure. So that leads the reader to conclude that probably Ozymandias is the one orchestrating things behind the scenes. Remember, Ozymandias is the one that manipulated events in the original Watchmen. Is he doing the same thing here? It would appear to be the case. Whoever is manipulating things behind the scenes appears to be trying to frame Dr. Manhattan. And now all these superheroes are flying to Mars to confront Dr. Manhattan, while Batman is trying to send them a message. But it takes about 13 minutes for his message to get to Mars, and unfortunately it doesn't actually arrive. So a lot happens here, and so much revelation is happening, it's hard to keep track of all of it. The issue starts off with Dr. Manhattan looking at the ring of a Legion of Superheroes, the Legion of Superheroes ring, and the ring, it's revealed, belongs to Pharaoh Lad. Now, the issue doesn't actually say that, but if those of you who know anything about the Legion of Superhero history know that Pharaoh Lad is a hero who was a member of the Legion of Superheroes for a very brief period of time, and he sacrificed his life to destroy the Sun Eater that was going to destroy the Earth in the 31st century. Well, apparently, when Dr. Manhattan interfered with the formation of the Justice Society by pulling the Green Lantern 6 inches away from Alan Scott's hands, apparently the failure of the Justice Society to be formed basically destroyed the future. It destroyed basically the future. We only got 1 week left to live. The universe is going to die in a week because, according to Dr. Manhattan, he can't see past a week from now. And he seems to tie it all into the fact that apparently when he pulled the lantern away, when he went back to July of 1940 and he pulled that lantern away from Alan Scott, preventing him from becoming Alan Scott Green Lantern, and ultimately preventing the formation of the Justice Society, the formation of the Legion of Superheroes never happened. And not only that, it seemed to affect all of time and history, such that ultimately time itself, the universe itself, gets destroyed in 1 week, and the last memory that Dr. Manhattan has is with him confronting Superman. And that's the last thing that he can remember, because the explosion that involved Firestorm and Superman last issue, that created an imbalance and in the tachyon field. And the tachyons are the particles that travel through time, and that clouded Dr. Manhattan's ability to see clearly the future in terms of what exactly was happening. So he's sort of operating in the dark, and Dr. Manhattan, he doesn't like not knowing the future, but yet at the same time, he finds it curious, that sensation of not knowing the future. He almost finds it enjoyable not knowing what to expect, as he later explains as he's battling the members of the Justice Society on Mars. Jeff Johns does a great job here of really illustrating his knowledge of knowledge of all the heroes of the DC Universe. I mean, the dialogue is absolutely spot on as the heroes confront Dr. Manhattan, particularly Guy Gardner and Jessica Cruz and Martian Manhunter, and so many characters interplay here. And Wonder Woman, as she confronts the delegates of the United Nations, Wonder Woman stays behind in order to propose a peace accord with the United Nations to calm the fears of the world, saying, look, we metahumans, we don't have it in for you, relax, everything's going to be okay. So much is in play here, so many moving parts, brilliantly scripted by Jeff Johns. He does a fantastic job putting all these layers together, really building suspense. And what is particularly interesting is Dr. Manhattan, as the heroes are confronting him on Mars, he's having a conversation with Ronnie Raymond in the past, 7 years in the past. He's having conversations at different points in time, just like he did at various points in the Watchmen series, and it's expertly done and laid out and structured and paced by Jeff Johns. This is a very well put together issue, absolutely thoroughly enjoyable. Those of you who are fans of the Watchmen series are going to absolutely love this issue. It's one of the best issues to date. There's so many heroes here, and the way all of them come together to battle Dr. Manhattan, it's an epic battlefield. What I really particularly enjoyed was Dr. Manhattan when Zatanna was battling him, and John Constantine and the creatures and the heroes of magic when they're confronting him. How Dr. Manhattan views magic. He said something very interesting when he said, when he confronts magic. He says, you all believe that you're wielding magic, but in reality, you're harnessing the scraps of creation, like the random errors in computer code, discarded, forgotten, left to be picked up and used by those who also find themselves discarded and forgotten. And it's interesting because he's a man of science. Dr. Manhattan, he views magic in scientific terms, and he sees magic, and he learns to use magic as he's battling the heroes and fighting them off. He actually learns to be somewhat of a sorcerer himself, and he enjoys it. He enjoys the experience. I love how Jeff Johns portrays Dr. Manhattan here as someone who's sort of experimenting with it. He's almost amused by being attacked by all these heroes, particularly Captain Atom. Captain Atom blows him to smithereens. Guy Gardner even snaps his neck, and he comes back again, and he sort of battles them, but it's almost like it's more of an experiment to him. Dr. Manhattan is making these observations. Oh, this is magic. This is actually scraps of creation. It's like computer code. And he's battling this and he's battling that. And it's all very matter of fact to him. And he even asks the heroes at one point, sort of rhetorically. He says, why are you doing this? What's the point of all this? And also at one point, he takes Ronnie Raymond back for some reason, 7 years in the past, and he shows Ronnie Raymond just Professor Stein's betrayal of him. And he says something very interesting to Ronnie Raymond. He said that basically even hope itself decays. So Dr. Manhattan makes a reference to hope, suggesting that even hope, Ronnie Raymond's hope was always a hopeful person, and he loved being Firestorm. The revelation of Ronnie Raymond that Professor Stein actually betrayed him and actually set up the explosion that made them merge to become Firestorm. That's a major revelation here. The fact that Professor Stein was part of the conspiracy theory, that Superman theory, is in fact true. It's true. So does that mean that cynicism wins out in the DC universe? Does hope really decay in the DC universe like Dr. Manhattan says in this issue? I don't know. But we do know that When Martian Manhunter read his mind and showed the images that he was reading in Dr. Manhattan's mind to all the other heroes on Mars, he showed them glimpses of what Dr. Manhattan saw in the future of him attacking Superman. Is Dr. Manhattan destined to kill Superman? Is Superman destined to kill Dr. Manhattan? And is that battle that'll take place approximately 1 week ahead of us, is that going to destroy all the universe as we know it? We don't know. But the questions and the anticipation of what's going to happen here, man, this is really good stuff. I thoroughly enjoy this issue. This is everything I love about Watchmen, about Doomsday Clock. There is also a scene here between Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. It was revealed that Lex Luthor was the one that sent Lois Lane the tapes, those old tapes showing the Justice Society. You got to remember that nobody in the DC universe at this point, at the time of Doomsday Clock, has ever heard of the Justice Society. So when that mysterious person sent Lois Lane the tapes showing the members of the Justice Society, Lois Lane doesn't know who these are, because the Justice Society has not yet existed in the Rebirth universe, except for the old Johnny Thunder character, that old 92-year-old man that's in the nursing home. So Lex Luthor reveals that he was the one that discovered this tape with the Justice Society. And Lex Luthor himself says that there is a force out there undermining not only Superman, but all of creation. And more evidence points to another victim, and that victim is Wally West. Lex Luthor asks Lois Lane if she has ever heard of a man by the name of Wally West. Now, guys, Wally West, we all know who Wally West is. He's that poor bastard that was killed in Sanctuary. How is this linked to Sanctuary? It's probably not. I hope it's not. Heroes in Crisis sucks. I don't like that storyline. But the fact that this is tying into Rebirth, is Wally West going to come back here? How is Wally West tied into this? The Justice Society disappeared. When Dr. Manhattan moved that lantern 6 inches away from the hand of Alan Scott, preventing him from becoming Green Lantern, he not only destroyed the future itself never happened. In the future, Sun Eater ultimately likely destroyed the Earth. Feral Lad never saved the galaxy in the 31st century in Legion of Superheroes lore. It also seemed to destroy the existence of Wally West, and it really did destroy hope. Hope is decaying. Perhaps it even led to Professor Stein becoming cynical and participating in the Superman theory. All of this flowing from the lack of creation of the Justice Society. This is clearly building to a point where the formation of the Justice Society seems to be key in order for hope to be restored to the DC universe. It looks more and more as if the Justice Society has to return. If Dr. Manhattan can go back in time and return that lantern to Alan Scott, could that be the pivotal event that, when it occurs, will save the DC universe and restore hope and rebirth? We don't know. Right now, the DC universe is kind of a cynical place, but these are the questions that one is asking. Guys, this is a great issue. There's so much that happens here. It should be mentioned that Batman himself fails to get that message to the people to the heroes on Mars. Clearly, Batman thinks that there's another force behind this. So Batman is clearly thinking that there's a malevolent force that might be even more powerful behind the scenes than Dr. Manhattan. It might not be Dr. Manhattan that's moving things. Lex Luthor is aware that there's a force that's undermining all of creation. But who is that force? Who would that force be? I'm not really sure. Guys, tell me if you see any clues here that maybe you could tip me off or tip us off in the comments below in terms of what's going on. Other amazing events that take place here is Black Adam makes a move on the United Nations. All the heroes are on Mars confronting Dr. Manhattan. Black Adam and all the heroes that sort of fled to Kondak for diplomatic protection. As the world began to fear metahumans, they all went. Black Adam invited them to all come to live in the Middle Eastern country of Kondak or Kandak, however you say it. He basically attacks the United Nations while all the heroes are gone. So he's got some machinations as well. He probably wants to take advantage of the fear of the world and foster it so that he can gain more power in the world. So we got that going on behind the scenes. And while all this is happening, Superman is incapacitated the entire issue. He's recovering in a coma in the Hall of Justice while Lex Luthor confronts Lois Lane and tells Lois Lane what he knows. And Superman is still incapacitated by the end of this issue. So at some point, you know, when Superman finally recovers, he's going to be flying to Mars, and there's going to be that confrontation that even Dr. Manhattan is unsure how it's going to end. So this is epic stuff, guys, and I can't wait for next issue. Guys, tell me what you think of Doomsday Clock number 9. This is a major epic issue. Tell me what you think of it. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40, and until next time, leave some comments below. Tell me what you think of the issue, and later, Comic Boom out.